The clock on the wall showed 3:15. Emma Chen sat quietly in the hard plastic chair outside Principal Martinez's office. Her small hands held a crumpled piece of paper. It was her math test, the one that started all the trouble. Emma was 12 years old. She had been at Lincoln Elementary School for only 3 months. Before this school, there were 6 others. She moved a lot because she lived in foster homes. When foster families changed, schools changed too. The hallway was empty now. All the other kids had gone home on the yellow buses. Emma could hear their voices getting quieter and quieter as they walked away from the building. She wished she could go with them, but she had to wait here. Mrs. Peterson walked by. She was Emma's math teacher. Mrs. Peterson looked at Emma but did not smile. She shook her head and kept walking. Emma felt her stomach hurt. She knew what Mrs. Peterson was thinking. Everyone was thinking the same thing. They all thought Emma was a cheater. It started 2 weeks ago. The state gave a big math test to all the smart kids. It was called the Mathematics Competition Qualifier. Only the best students in each school could take it. Emma was surprised when Mrs. Peterson told her she could take the test. Emma was not like the other smart kids. She did not raise her hand in class. She did not show off her answers. She sat in the back row and stayed quiet. The other kids had fancy clothes and new backpacks. Emma wore clothes from the donation box. Her backpack had a broken zipper. But Emma loved math. She loved numbers and problems and finding answers. At night, when her foster family was watching TV, Emma would go to her room. She would work on math problems from library books, old books with yellow pages and torn covers. She taught herself things that were not in her school books. The day of the big test came. Emma sat at her desk with a sharp pencil. She looked at the first problem. It was about fractions, easy. The second problem was about percentages, also easy. She kept going. Problem after problem, Emma knew the answers. Her pencil moved fast across the paper. She did not stop to think very long. The numbers just made sense to her. They always had. Some problems were harder. They were about things she had never learned in class, but Emma had read about them in her library books. She had practiced them alone in her room. So she solved those problems too. When time was up, Emma put down her pencil. She felt good. Math always made her feel good. It was the one thing that stayed the same no matter which school she went to. Numbers were the same everywhere. 2 weeks later, the results came back. Emma got a perfect score, 100%. Every single answer was right. Mrs. Peterson called Emma to her desk after class. "Emma," she said, "we need to talk about your test." Emma felt confused. Was something wrong with it? Mrs. Peterson frowned. "Emma, this test was very hard. High school students have trouble with some of these problems. You got every question right. That seems very unusual." Emma's heart started beating fast. "I studied really hard." "Where did you study these things? We have not learned them in our class." Emma wanted to tell her about the library books, about the nights spent working problems by herself. But Mrs. Peterson's face looked angry. Emma stayed quiet. "I think you need to see Principal Martinez," Mrs. Peterson said. That was yesterday. Today Emma sat in the principal's office. Principal Martinez was a tall man with gray hair. He wore a dark suit and shiny shoes. His voice was deep and serious. "Emma," he said, "I have been looking at your test results." Emma nodded but did not speak. A perfect score is very rare. In fact, no student from our school has ever gotten a perfect score on this test. Emma still said nothing. Principal Martinez leaned forward in his big leather chair. "Emma, I have to ask you something important. Did someone help you with this test?" "No, sir," Emma said quietly. "Did you see someone else's answers?" "No, sir." "Did you bring any notes or books into the test room?" "No, sir." Emma's voice was getting smaller. Principal Martinez sighed. "Emma, I find it very hard to believe that a student who just arrived at our school could do so well on such a difficult test. Especially a student with your background." Emma knew what he meant by your background. He meant foster care. He meant moving from school to school. He meant being poor and different. "I want to believe you," Principal Martinez continued. but I have to think about what is best for all our students. Cheating is a serious problem. If you cheated, other students might think they should cheat too. Emma felt tears starting in her eyes. I did not cheat. The problem is, I cannot prove that you did not cheat, and I cannot prove that you did cheat, so I have made a decision. He opened a folder on his desk. I am moving you to a different program. It is for students who need more help with their schoolwork. Emma's mouth opened. But I am good at math. If you are really good at math, you will do well in any program. Principal Martinez pulled out some papers. Mrs. Johnson will be your new teacher. She works with students who have learning problems. You will start tomorrow. Emma stared at the papers. Her name was already typed on them. Principal Martinez had made up his mind before he even talked to her. Can I go now? Emma asked. Yes. But Emma, I want you to think about telling the truth. If you cheated, it would be better to admit it now. Emma stood up slowly. I told the truth. She walked out of the office and down the long hallway. Her footsteps echoed on the shiny floor. At her locker, she began putting her things into a cardboard box. The box used to hold copy paper. Now it would hold her books and pencils and the few things that belonged to her. Other students walked by. They whispered and pointed. Everyone knew about Emma and the test. Everyone thought she was a cheater. In a small school, news traveled fast. I cannot believe she thought she could fool everyone, one girl whispered. My mom says foster kids often have problems with lying, another girl said. Emma pretended not to hear them. She kept packing her things. She put in her math notebook. She put in her pencils. She put in the library book she was reading. It was about advanced mathematics. Tomorrow she would sit in a different classroom. She would work on simple problems she had learned years ago. She would be with students who struggled with basic math. Everyone would know she was there because they thought she was a cheater. Emma closed the cardboard box. She picked it up and started walking toward the door. Behind her, she could hear more whispers. More students talking about the girl who tried to cheat her way to the top. But Emma knew the truth. She had not cheated. She was just good at math. Really, really good. Better than anyone realized. The problem was, no one believed her. Emma walked slowly toward the front door of the school. The cardboard box felt heavy in her arms. Inside were all her school things. Tomorrow she would take them to a new classroom. A classroom for students who needed help with easy math. She was almost at the door when she heard a voice behind her. Emma, wait. She turned around. Principal Martinez was walking toward her. His shiny shoes clicked on the floor. His face looked serious like always. Come back to my office for a minute, he said. Emma did not want to go back. She wanted to leave and never come back to this school. But when the principal tells you to do something, you have to do it. She followed him back down the hallway. Her footsteps were quiet. His footsteps were loud. Other teachers looked out of their classrooms as they walked by. Emma felt like everyone was staring at her. In his office, Principal Martinez closed the door. Emma stood near the door, still holding her box. She did not sit down. She wanted to be ready to leave quickly. Principal Martinez went to his big desk. He opened a drawer and took out some papers. The papers looked different from regular schoolwork. They had lots of numbers and strange symbols on them. Emma, he said, I have been thinking about what you said. About not cheating. Emma did not say anything. She just waited. I have decided to give you one more chance to prove yourself. He held up the papers. These are math problems. Very hard math problems. Much harder than the test you took. Emma looked at the papers. Even from far away, she could see they were not like normal school math. They had letters mixed with numbers. They had symbols she recognized from her library books. If you really did not cheat, Principal Martinez continued, then you should be able to solve these problems. Right here, right now, with me watching. Emma felt her heart beating fast again, but this time it was not from fear. It was from excitement. Those problems looked interesting. They looked like puzzles she wanted to solve. If you cannot solve them, Principal Martinez said, then I will know you cheated on the test. You will go to the remedial program and that will be the end of it. He walked around his desk and stood closer to Emma. But if you can solve them, then I will know you were telling the truth. You can stay in the regular program. Emma looked at the papers again. What kind of math is it? It is called calculus. It is math that high school students learn. Some college students have trouble with it. Emma knew about calculus. She had read about it in her library books. She had practiced some calculus problems late at night in her room. It was harder than regular math, but it was also more interesting. Principal Martinez sat down in his chair. Well, do you want to try? Emma thought for a moment. If she said no, he would think she was afraid because she had cheated. If she said yes and could not solve the problems, he would also think she had cheated. But if she said yes and solved the problems, maybe he would believe her. Yes, she said quietly. I will try. Principal Martinez looked surprised. He had expected her to say no. He had expected her to admit she had cheated rather than try to solve college-level math problems. Are you sure? He asked. Yes. He pointed to a chair near his desk. Sit down. Emma put her cardboard box on the floor and sat in the chair. Principal Martinez gave her the papers and a pencil. There were 5 problems on the papers. Emma looked at the first problem. It was about finding the derivative of a function. She had read about derivatives in her library book. They were about how fast things change. The second problem was about integration. That was like derivatives, but backwards. The third problem was more complicated. It had trigonometry mixed with calculus. Emma felt excited. These problems were like puzzles. Hard puzzles, but the kind she enjoyed. You can start whenever you're ready, Principal Martinez said. He leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. His face said he did not think she could do it. Emma picked up the pencil. She started working on the first problem. At first, her hand moved slowly. She had to think carefully about each step. But then she remembered what she had read in her library book. She remembered practicing similar problems. Her pencil started moving faster. Principal Martinez watched her carefully. He expected her to look confused. He expected her to give up quickly. Instead, Emma looked focused. She looked like she knew what she was doing. Emma finished the first problem and moved to the second one. This one was about finding the area under a curve. She had read about this too. She drew a small picture to help herself think about the problem. Principal Martinez leaned forward. He could not see exactly what Emma was writing, but he could see her pencil moving steadily across the paper. She did not seem stuck. She did not seem confused. Emma worked on the third problem. This one was harder. It took her longer to think about it, but after a few minutes she started writing again. Principal Martinez began to feel uncomfortable. When he had given Emma these problems, he was sure she would not be able to solve them. He was sure she would admit she had cheated rather than embarrass herself by trying. But Emma was not giving up. She was working steadily through the problems. And from what he could see, her work looked organized and careful. Emma finished the fourth problem and looked at the fifth one. This problem was the hardest of all. It combined several different types of calculus. Even some college students would have trouble with it. Emma stared at the problem for a long time. Principal Martinez thought she was finally stuck. But then Emma smiled a small smile. She had figured it out. Her pencil moved across the paper. She wrote equations and drew small diagrams. She worked for 10 more minutes. Finally, she put down her pencil. I am done, she said quietly. Principal Martinez stared at her. He could not believe it. This 12-year-old girl, who had been at his school for only 3 months, claimed she had just solved college-level math problems. Are you sure you are done? He asked. Yes, he reached for the papers. His hands felt shaky. He looked at Emma's work. The first problem was correct. So was the second one. And the third one. And the fourth one. He looked at the fifth problem. It was not only correct, but Emma had solved it in a way that was cleaner and simpler than the way he had learned to solve it. Principal Martinez felt his mouth fall open. He looked at Emma, then back at the papers, then at Emma again. This was not possible. A 12-year-old foster child could not solve calculus problems better than high school students. But the proof was right there in front of him, written in Emma's careful handwriting. How did you learn to do this? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Emma looked down at her hands. From books at the library. Books at the library? Yes, I like math. So I read math books. I practice problems at night. Principal Martinez felt something strange happening in his chest. It might have been shame, or surprise, or both, Emma, he said slowly. I think I may have made a mistake. Emma looked up at Principal Martinez. His face had changed. The angry, doubting look was gone. Now he looked confused and surprised. "Emma," he said, "I need to understand something. You solved all these problems correctly." Emma nodded but did not speak. She was not sure if this was good news or bad news. Principal Martinez stood up from his chair. He walked to the window and looked outside. The school buses were gone now. The playground was empty. "These problems," he said, still looking out the window, "are from a college textbook. My daughter is studying them right now. She is 18 years old and in her first year of college." He turned back to look at Emma. "She has trouble with problems like these. She needs help from her teacher and other students." Emma felt scared. Maybe she had done something wrong. Maybe she was not supposed to know how to solve college problems. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "Sorry? Why are you sorry?" "I do not know if I was supposed to be able to solve them." Principal Martinez came back to his desk. He sat down and looked at the papers again. "Emma, do you understand what this means?" Emma shook her head. "It means you are not just good at math. You are exceptionally good at math. Better than most adults." He picked up one of the papers. "This problem here, number 5. Do you know that there are 3 different ways to solve it?" Emma nodded. "Yes, I used the substitution method because it seemed fastest." Principal Martinez stared at her. "You know about different methods?" The library book showed several ways to do integration problems. Some ways work better for different types of problems. Principal Martinez felt dizzy. This was not a normal 12-year-old conversation. This was the kind of conversation he might have with a college professor. "Emma, can you tell me more about these library books?" Emma looked down at her hands again. She always looked down when adults asked her questions. Foster kids learn to be careful about talking too much. "I like to read about math," she said. "The library has old textbooks that people donated. I check them out and read them at night." "What kinds of textbooks?" "Algebra, geometry, trigonometry, calculus. Some about physics and engineering, too." Principal Martinez felt his head spinning. "You read physics textbooks?" "Only the math parts. The physics stories are harder to understand without doing experiments." He stared at Emma for a long moment. This quiet girl in donated clothes was talking about physics like it was a hobby. "Emma, I need to ask you something important. When you took that state math test, did you really not cheat?" "No, sir. I did not cheat." "And you learned all those things from library books?" "Yes, sir. And from practicing problems." Principal Martinez felt sick to his stomach. He had accused this brilliant child of cheating. He had been ready to put her in a remedial program for students with learning problems. "Emma, I owe you an apology." Emma looked up, surprised. Adults did not usually apologize to foster kids. "I was wrong to doubt you. I was wrong to accuse you of cheating." He stood up again and walked around his desk. "Emma, do you know what gifted education is?" Emma shook her head. "It is a special program for students who learn much faster than other students. Students who can understand difficult things that other kids their age cannot understand." Emma waited for him to continue. "I think you should be in our gifted program." "Not in a remedial program." Emma felt confused. "But what about the cheating?" "There was no cheating. You are just incredibly smart." Principal Martinez went to his file cabinet and pulled out a thick folder. "This is information about our gifted program. Students in this program work on harder problems. They learn things that regular classes do not teach." He opened the folder and showed Emma some papers. "Look at these math problems." Emma looked at the papers. The problems were harder than regular school math, but much easier than the calculus problems she had just solved. "These look easy," she said without thinking. Principal Martinez almost smiled. "Emma, these problems are for our most advanced math students. Students who are considered very smart." Emma felt embarrassed. "I am sorry. I did not mean they were too easy." "Do not be sorry. The fact that they look easy to you tells me something very important." He sat back down and looked at Emma seriously. "Emma, I think you are what we call mathematically gifted. That means you have a special talent for understanding math and numbers." Emma had never heard anyone say she had a talent for anything. Foster kids usually heard about their problems, not their talents. "Really?" she asked quietly. "Really?" "Emma, how long have you been reading those library books?" Emma thought for a moment. "Since I was 9, I think. Maybe 8. So you have been teaching yourself advanced math for 3 or 4 years?" "Yes, sir." Principal Martinez shook his head in amazement. "Emma, most students do not learn calculus until they are 17 or 18 years old. You learned it by yourself when you were 9. Emma did not know what to say to that. Can I ask you another question? Principal Martinez said. Emma nodded. Why did you not tell Mrs. Peterson about the library books? Why did you not explain how you learned these things? Emma looked down again. Foster kids are not supposed to be smarter than other kids. It makes people uncomfortable. Principal Martinez felt that sick feeling in his stomach again. Who told you that? No one told me, but I learned it. When you are too different, people do not like you. When you do not have a real family, you need people to like you. Emma's voice was very quiet now. It is easier to be quiet and not show off. Then people do not ask questions about why you know things they do not know. Principal Martinez understood now. Emma had been hiding her intelligence to fit in. She had been pretending to be average so people would not think she was strange or different. Emma, being smart is not something to hide. It is something to be proud of. Emma looked up at him. But people think smart kids are weird. Some people might think that. But the right people, the good people, will think being smart is wonderful. He leaned forward in his chair. Emma, I want to help you use your gift. I want to help you learn even more math and science. For the first time since Emma had been in his office, she smiled a little bit. Really? Really? But first I need to fix the mistake I made. Principal Martinez picked up the phone on his desk. He dialed a number. Mrs. Peterson? This is Principal Martinez. Can you come to my office, please? And can you bring Mrs. Johnson with you? He hung up the phone and looked at Emma. I need to tell your teachers what I learned today. Emma felt nervous again. Are you going to tell them I can do calculus? Is that okay with you? Emma thought about it. She was tired of hiding. She was tired of pretending to be average when she was not average at all. Yes, she said. It is okay. A few minutes later, Mrs. Peterson and Mrs. Johnson knocked on the door. Come in, Principal Martinez called. The two teachers walked into the office. They saw Emma sitting in the chair with math papers in front of her. What is going on? Mrs. Peterson asked Principal. Martinez picked up the papers with Emma's work on them. Emma just solved 5 college-level calculus problems correctly. Mrs. Peterson's mouth fell open. Mrs. Johnson stared at Emma like she had never seen her before. That is impossible, Mrs. Peterson said. That is what I thought too, Principal Martinez replied. But the evidence is right here. He showed them Emma's work. Both teachers looked at the papers carefully. I do not understand, Mrs. Johnson said. These problems are much harder than anything we teach. Emma taught them to herself, Principal Martinez explained. She has been reading advanced math textbooks from the library for years. Mrs. Peterson looked at Emma with new eyes. Emma, is this true? Emma nodded. Why did you not tell me this before? Emma looked down at her hands again. I did not think you would believe me. Principal Martinez felt ashamed all over again. Emma had been right not to think adults would believe her. He had not believed her either. Well, he said, we believe you now. Mrs. Peterson and Mrs. Johnson stood in Principal Martinez's office, staring at the papers in their hands. They read Emma's calculus work over and over again. This cannot be real, Mrs. Peterson whispered. Emma felt scared again. Maybe the teachers thought she had cheated on these problems too. Principal Martinez saw the worry on Emma's face. Emma, would you mind showing Mrs. Peterson and Mrs. Johnson how you solved one of these problems? Emma looked at the teachers. They both looked shocked and confused. Which problem? Emma asked quietly. Principal Martinez pointed to problem number 3. This one. It was about finding the rate of change. Emma stood up and walked to the whiteboard on the wall. She picked up a marker with shaking hands. You do not have to do this if you do not want to, Principal Martinez said gently. Emma looked back at him. It is okay. I want to show them. She turned to the whiteboard and started writing. First, she wrote out the problem exactly as it appeared on the paper. This problem asks us to find how fast something is changing, she said. Her voice was quiet, but it got stronger as she continued. Mrs. Peterson and Mrs. Johnson watched silently. Emma drew a small graph on the whiteboard. When we want to find how fast something changes, we use derivatives. She started writing equations. Her marker moved smoothly across the board. First, we use the power rule, Emma explained. When we have x to the 4th power, the derivative is 4 times x to the 3rd power. Mrs. Johnson's eyes grew wide. She taught special education students. She had never heard a 12-year-old talk about power rules and derivatives. Emma kept writing. But this problem also has a sin function. For sine functions, we use a different rule. She wrote more equations. Each step was clear and organized. The derivative of sine x is cosine x, Emma continued. So we combine the power rule and the trigonometry rule using the product rule. Mrs. Peterson could not believe what she was hearing. Emma was not just solving the problem, she was teaching it. Like a professor, Emma worked steadily for several minutes. She explained each step as she wrote. When she was finished, she turned around to face the adults. "The answer is here," she said, pointing to the final equation on the board. Principal Martinez looked at the work. It matched exactly what Emma had written on the paper. But more than that, Emma had shown that she really understood what she was doing. "Emma," Mrs. Peterson said slowly, "where did you learn about sine and cosine?" "From a trigonometry book at the library." "And the power rule?" "From a calculus book." Mrs. Johnson shook her head. "Emma, do you know that most students do not learn trigonometry until they are 16 years old?" Emma looked surprised. "Really? Really? And calculus is usually taught to 18-year-olds. Emma felt confused. But the books were in the regular library. Anyone can check them out. Just because anyone can check them out does not mean anyone can understand them, Principal Martinez explained. Mrs. Peterson walked closer to the whiteboard. She studied Emma's work carefully. "Emma, this explanation is clearer than the way I learned calculus in college." Emma did not know what to say to that. Mrs. Johnson had been quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke up. "Principal Martinez, I think we have made a terrible mistake." Everyone looked at her. This child should not be in special education. This child should not even be in regular education. She pointed to the whiteboard. "This child is working at a college level. Maybe beyond college level." Principal Martinez nodded slowly. "That is what I am beginning to understand." He walked over to his desk and picked up Emma's file. "Emma, can I ask you about your previous schools?" Emma felt nervous again. "What about them? Did any of your teachers notice that you were good at math?" Emma thought for a moment. "Some teachers said I was good at math, but I never stayed at one school very long." "How long was your longest time at one school?" 8 months, I think." Mrs. Peterson felt sad. "Emma, it takes time for teachers to really understand what students can do. If you kept moving schools, no one had enough time to see how special you are." Emma looked down. "I do not like moving schools." "I am sure you do not," Principal Martinez said gently. He opened Emma's file and read some papers. "It says here that several teachers noted you were above average in mathematics, but no one realized how far above average you were." Mrs. Johnson was still looking at the whiteboard. "Emma, can you solve problems that are even harder than this?" Emma shrugged. "I do not know. I have only read the books that the library has." "What is the hardest math book you have read?" Emma thought carefully. "There was a book about differential equations. That was pretty hard." All three adults stared at Emma. "Differential equations?" Mrs. Peterson said weakly. "Yes, it is about equations that have derivatives in them." Principal Martinez sat down heavily in his chair. "Emma, differential equations are taught to college students in their 3rd or 4th year." Emma looked worried. "Did I do something wrong by reading about them?" "No," all three adults said at the same time. "You did not do anything wrong," Principal Martinez said quickly. "We are just surprised because you know things that most adults do not know." Mrs. Peterson walked back to the chair and sat down. She looked tired. "Principal Martinez, I need to apologize." "What for?" "When Emma got that perfect score on the state test, I should have been excited. Instead, I was suspicious." She looked at Emma. "Emma, I am sorry I did not believe in you." Emma did not know what to say. Adults did not usually apologize to her. Mrs. Johnson nodded. "I am sorry too, Emma. I was ready to put you in a program for students who struggle with learning. But you should be in a program for students who learn faster than anyone else." Principal Martinez stood up and walked to the window again. "Emma, I need to ask you something important." Emma waited. "Do you like learning new things?" "Yes, sir. I love learning. Would you be interested in working on even harder problems? Learning things that most kids your age never get to learn?" Emma's eyes lit up. "Really, I could do that." "I think so, but it would mean some big changes." He turned around to face her. "You would work with different teachers. You might even work with professors from the college." Emma could not believe what she was hearing. College professors would work with me? Emma, you are already doing college-level work. I think college professors would be very interested in meeting you. Mrs. Peterson stood up. Principal Martinez, what about the state math competition? What about it? Emma's perfect score. She earned the right to compete in the state finals. Principal Martinez smiled for the first time that day. You are absolutely right. He looked at Emma. Emma, in 2 weeks there is a big math competition. Students from all over the state will be there. The winners get scholarships to college. Emma felt excited and scared at the same time. Would I really be allowed to compete? Not only allowed, you earned your spot with that perfect score. Mrs. Johnson was shaking her head in amazement. A few hours ago we thought Emma was a cheater. Now we know she might be the smartest student in the entire state. Principal Martinez picked up the papers that had caused all the trouble. Emma's original test results. Emma, I owe you more than an apology. I almost made the biggest mistake of my career. He held up the papers. This test that made me suspicious? This test that made me think you cheated? This test was not too hard for you. It was too easy. Emma smiled a little bit. It was pretty easy. Emma, I think the state competition is going to be easy for you too. Mrs. Peterson gathered up the calculus problems from Principal Martinez's desk. Can I keep these? Why? Because someday when people do not believe that a 12-year-old can do calculus, I want to show them the proof. She looked at Emma with new respect. Emma, you are going to do amazing things with your life. Emma felt something she had never felt before. She felt proud of being smart. She felt excited about learning. And for the first time in a long time, she felt like someone believed in her. Thank you, she whispered. Principal Martinez walked over to the cardboard box that still sat on the floor. Emma's belongings were still packed inside. Emma, you will not be needing this box. I will not? No, because you are not going anywhere. You are staying right here at Lincoln Elementary, and we are going to help you learn everything you want to learn. Emma felt tears in her eyes, but for the first time in a long time, they were happy tears. That evening, Principal Martinez stayed late in his office. The school was empty and quiet. Emma had gone home to her foster family, and the teachers had gone home to their families. But Principal Martinez could not leave yet. He sat at his desk with Emma's file open in front of him. For the first time, he read every single page carefully. Emma Chen had been born in San Francisco. Her parents died in a car accident when she was 4 years old. She had no other family members who could take care of her. Principal Martinez felt sad as he read this. Emma had been alone in the world since she was very young. The file showed that Emma had lived in 7 different foster homes in 8 years. Some foster families could not handle her. Others moved away or had changes in their lives. One family gave Emma back to the state because they said she was too quiet and strange. Principal Martinez shook his head. Now he understood why Emma was quiet. She had learned that being different made families not want her. He kept reading. Emma had attended 8 different schools. Each time she changed foster homes, she changed schools too. At Washington Elementary, Emma's first-grade teacher wrote, Emma is very good with numbers. She can add and subtract better than most second graders. At Roosevelt Elementary, her second-grade teacher wrote, Emma completes her math work very quickly. She seems bored during math lessons. At Jefferson Elementary, her third-grade teacher wrote, Emma asks questions about math that I cannot answer. She might be gifted. Principal Martinez stopped reading for a moment. 3 different teachers had noticed that Emma was special. But before anyone could help her, she had moved to different schools. He continued reading the file. At Lincoln Elementary, Emma's 4th-grade teacher wrote, Emma is quiet but very smart. She finishes all her work early and then reads library books. At Kennedy Elementary, her 5th-grade teacher wrote, Emma knows math concepts that we have not taught yet. She might benefit from advanced placement. At Adams Elementary, her 6th-grade teacher wrote, Emma is clearly gifted in mathematics. I recommend testing for the gifted program immediately. But Emma had only been at Adams Elementary for 2 months before moving again. Principal Martinez felt sick to his stomach. For years, teachers had been trying to tell people that Emma was gifted. But the foster care system kept moving her before anyone could help her. He picked up another paper from the file. It was a report from Emma's current foster family, the Johnsons. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson wrote, Emma is a good child. She is quiet and does not cause any trouble. She spends most of her time reading library books. We do not understand the math books she brings home, but she seems to enjoy them. They also wrote, Emma does not talk much about school. When we ask about her day, she usually says it was fine and goes to her room to read. Principal Martinez understood now why Emma did not talk about school. She had learned that talking about being smart made adults suspicious or uncomfortable. He found another paper in the file. It was a psychological evaluation that had been done when Emma was 9 years old. The psychologist wrote, Emma shows signs of high intelligence, particularly in logical reasoning and mathematical thinking. However, she is reluctant to demonstrate her abilities. This may be due to frequent changes in her living situation. The psychologist also wrote, Emma has developed coping strategies to blend in with other children. She appears to be hiding her true capabilities to avoid standing out. Principal Martinez put down the paper and rubbed his eyes. Emma had been protecting herself by pretending to be average. She thought that being too smart would make people not want her. He picked up his phone and called the district office. Hello, this is Principal Martinez at Lincoln Elementary. I need to speak to Dr. Williams about one of our students. Dr. Williams was the director of gifted education for the whole school district. Hello, Principal Martinez. What can I help you with? I have a student who I think needs immediate placement in the gifted program. What grade is the student in? 6th grade. Okay, we can schedule testing next month. Dr. Williams, I do not think you understand. This student does not need testing. This student is working at a college level. There was silence on the phone. I am sorry, did you say college level? Yes, this afternoon this student solved calculus problems correctly. Differential calculus. Principal Martinez, are you sure about this? I watched the student do it. I have the work right here on my desk. Dr. Williams was quiet for a moment.
Can you bring the student to my office tomorrow morning?
Actually, Dr. Williams, I think you should come here. This student has had a difficult day and I want her to feel comfortable. Her? Yes, her name is Emma Chen. She is 12 years old and in foster care. Foster care? Principal Martinez explained Emma's situation. He told Dr. Williams about the constant moves and the different schools. He explained how Emma had been teaching herself advanced mathematics for years. This is extraordinary, Dr. Williams said. I have never heard of a case like this. There is something else, Principal Martinez continued. Emma got a perfect score on the state mathematics competition qualifier. A perfect score? No student from your school has ever gotten a perfect score. That is what made me suspicious. I thought she had cheated. Principal Martinez felt ashamed all over again. I almost put her in special education. You thought a gifted child was learning disabled? I thought she was a cheater. I could not believe that a foster child could be so smart. Dr. Williams was quiet for a long moment. Principal Martinez, we need to help this child immediately. What do you mean? A child with this level of ability needs special resources. She needs advanced materials and specialized teaching. She needs to work with people who understand gifted children. Can we provide that at Lincoln Elementary? We can try. But honestly, this child might need resources that our district does not have. Principal Martinez felt worried. What are you saying? I am saying that Emma might be so advanced that she needs to work with university professors. She might need access to college-level courses. She is only 12 years old. Age does not matter when a child is this gifted. What matters is giving her the right level of challenge and support. Principal Martinez thought about Emma sitting alone in the cafeteria, eating lunch while working math problems from library books. Dr. Williams. This child has been ignored and misunderstood her whole life. We cannot let that continue. I agree completely. Let me make some phone calls tonight. I know some professors at the state university who work with exceptionally gifted children. Really? Really. There are not many children like Emma, but they do exist. And there are people who specialize in helping them. After Principal Martinez hung up the phone, he continued reading Emma's file. He found Emma's report cards from all her different schools. She had gotten A's in math at every school, but her other grades were mixed. Some teachers gave her A's in all subjects. Others gave her B's and C's. Principal Martinez realized that Emma's grades depended on whether her teachers recognized her abilities. Teachers who saw her potential gave her good grades. Teachers who did not understand her gave her lower grades. He found one more paper in the file. It was an essay that Emma had written for her English class at her previous school. The topic was, What I Want to Be When I Grow Up. Emma had written, "I want to be a mathematician. I love working with numbers and solving problems. Math makes sense to me when other things do not make sense. Numbers are the same everywhere, even when everything else changes." She had also written, "I want to help other kids who feel different or alone. I want them to know that being smart is okay. I want them to know that they belong somewhere." Principal Martinez felt tears in his eyes as he read Emma's words. This brilliant child had spent her whole life feeling like she did not belong anywhere. But that was about to change. He picked up his phone again and called the Johnson family. "Hello, Mrs. Johnson? This is Principal Martinez from Lincoln Elementary." "Oh, hello, Principal Martinez. Is Emma in trouble?" "No, Mrs. Johnson, Emma is not in trouble. In fact, I am calling with very good news." He explained what had happened that day. He told Mrs. Johnson about Emma's mathematical abilities and the plans to help her. "We always knew Emma was smart," Mrs. Johnson said, "but we had no idea she was this smart. Mrs. Johnson, Emma is going to need a lot of support in the coming weeks. There will be meetings and evaluations and new programs. We will help her however we can. There is one more thing. Emma is going to compete in the state mathematics competition in 2 weeks." "Really?" "Really. And I think she has a very good chance of winning." After he hung up the phone, Principal Martinez sat quietly in his office for a long time. He thought about all the ways the school system had failed Emma. He thought about all the signs that had been missed. But mostly he thought about Emma's future. This brilliant child who had been hiding her gifts was about to discover what she could really accomplish. Tomorrow would be the beginning of a new life for Emma Chen. A life where being smart was celebrated, not hidden. A life where her gifts would be nurtured, not ignored. Principal Martinez smiled as he finally turned off the lights and locked his office. Tomorrow could not come soon enough. The next morning, Emma walked into Lincoln Elementary feeling nervous. She did not know what to expect. Yesterday had been so strange and surprising that she could hardly believe it had really happened. As she walked down the hallway, other students stared at her. Word had spread quickly through the school that Emma was some kind of math genius. Some kids looked impressed, others looked skeptical. Emma kept her eyes down and walked to her locker. She was putting away her jacket when she heard footsteps behind her. "Emma?" She turned around. Principal Martinez was standing there, but he looked different from yesterday. His face was kind and gentle instead of stern and doubting. "Good morning, Emma. How are you feeling today?" "Okay, I think. I need to talk to you before classes start." "Can you come to my office?" Emma felt scared again. "Did I do something wrong?" "No, Emma, you did not do anything wrong. I need to talk to you about something important." They walked to his office together. Emma noticed that other teachers smiled at her as they passed. Yesterday, those same teachers had looked at her with suspicion. In his office, Principal Martinez gestured to the chair where Emma had sat the day before. But instead of sitting behind his big desk, he pulled another chair close to Emma's chair and sat down next to her. "Emma, I spent a long time last night reading your file from the district office." Emma felt worried. Files usually contain bad things about foster kids. What did it say? "It said that you are an amazing young person who has been through very difficult times." Emma looked surprised. Adults usually did not talk about her life being difficult. "Emma, I learned that you have lived in 7 different foster homes and attended 8 different schools." Emma nodded but did not speak. "I learned that many teachers over the years noticed that you were special. They wrote notes in your file saying you were gifted in mathematics." "They did?" "They did. But because you kept moving, no one was able to help you develop your gifts." Principal Martinez leaned forward slightly. "Emma, I also learned that you have been teaching yourself advanced mathematics since you were 8 or 9 years old." "Yes, sir." "Do you know how extraordinary that is?" Emma shook her head. "Most children cannot teach themselves such difficult subjects. Most adults cannot teach themselves such difficult subjects." He paused for a moment. "Emma, what you have accomplished on your own is remarkable. You should be proud of yourself." Emma felt strange hearing these words. She had never thought of herself as remarkable. "But Emma, I need to apologize to you." "For what?" Principal Martinez's voice became very serious. "Yesterday I treated you unfairly. I accused you of cheating without giving you a chance to explain." Emma looked down at her hands. "I made assumptions about you based on things that had nothing to do with your character or your abilities." "What kind of assumptions?" Principal Martinez felt uncomfortable, but he knew he needed to be honest. I assumed that because you were in foster care you might be more likely to cheat. I assumed that because you move schools often, you could not be as smart as your test scores suggested. Emma felt sad but not surprised. Adults often made those kinds of assumptions about foster kids. I was wrong to think those things, Principal Martinez continued. Your living situation has nothing to do with your intelligence or your honesty. He looked directly at Emma. You are brilliant, Emma. You are honest. You are hardworking. And I am sorry that I could not see those things immediately. Emma did not know what to say. She had never had an adult apologize to her for making unfair assumptions. Emma, can you forgive me for doubting you? Emma looked up at him. You believe me now, right? I believe you completely. And I am going to make sure that everyone else believes in you too. There was a knock on the office door. Come in, Principal Martinez called. Mrs. Peterson walked into the office. She was carrying a large folder and looked nervous. Good morning, Emma, she said softly. Good morning. Mrs. Peterson. Mrs. Peterson sat down in another chair near Emma. Emma, I need to apologize to you too. Emma felt confused. Yesterday, Mrs. Peterson had seemed angry at her. Today she seemed almost afraid. Emma, when you got that perfect score on the state test, I should have been excited for you. Instead, I was suspicious. Mrs. Peterson opened the folder she was carrying. Inside were copies of all the math work Emma had done in her class. I went home last night and looked at all your assignments from this year. She spread the papers out on Principal Martinez's desk. Emma, look at this work. Really look at it. Emma looked at her math assignments. She had gotten perfect scores on all of them. Emma, these assignments were too easy for you, were they not? Emma nodded quietly. You finished them in just a few minutes while other students worked. For the whole class period. Yes, ma'am. And then you would sit quietly and read your library books. Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Peterson shook her head. Emma, I should have realized that a student who finishes advanced 6th grade math in 5 minutes might be ready for even more advanced work. She pointed to one assignment. This problem here about calculating compound interest. Do you remember this? Emma nodded. You not only solved it correctly, you solved it 3 different ways, and you wrote a note explaining which method was most efficient. Emma had forgotten about that note. Emma, that kind of mathematical thinking is what college professors do, not 6th graders. Mrs. Peterson looked sad. I ignored all the signs that you were gifted because I could not believe a foster child could be so advanced. Emma felt hurt. Why could you not believe it? Mrs. Peterson was quiet for a moment. Because I had never seen it before, and because I made the same unfair assumptions that Principal Martinez made. She looked directly at Emma. Emma, I am ashamed of how I treated you. You deserved better from me. There was another knock on the door. This time it was Mrs. Johnson, the special education teacher. May I come in? She asked. Of course, Principal Martinez said. Mrs. Johnson sat down with the group. Emma, I owe you an apology as well. Emma could not believe how many adults were apologizing to her. Yesterday, I was prepared to put you in a program for students with learning disabilities. Mrs. Johnson shook her head. Emma, you do not have learning disabilities. You have learning abilities that are far beyond normal. She pulled out a piece of paper. Last night I researched information about mathematically gifted children. What did you find? Principal Martinez asked. I found that children like Emma are very rare. Maybe 1 in 10,000 children can do what Emma can do. She looked at Emma. Emma, you are not just smart. You are exceptionally gifted, profoundly gifted. Emma did not understand what those words meant. It means, Mrs. Johnson explained, that your brain works differently from most people's brains. You can understand very complex ideas that most people cannot understand. Mrs. Johnson showed Emma the paper she had brought. It says here that profoundly gifted children often teach themselves advanced subjects just like you did. Really? Really. Emma, you are not strange or weird. You are special in a wonderful way. Principal Martinez stood up and walked to his filing cabinet. He pulled out the papers from yesterday, the calculus problems that Emma had solved. Emma, I showed these papers to my wife last night. She is a high school math teacher. Emma waited to hear what his wife had said. She looked at your work and said it was better than the work her senior students do. Cleaner, more organized, and more creative. Principal Martinez sat back down. Emma, my wife wants to meet you. She said she has never seen such elegant mathematical work from someone so young. Emma felt a warm feeling in her chest. She had never heard her math work described as elegant before. Mrs. Peterson gathered up the papers from Emma's folder.
Emma, I have a confession to make. What?
I have been teaching 6th grade math for 15 years. You know more mathematics than I do. Emma looked surprised. It is true. Those calculus problems you solved yesterday? I could not solve them. I never learned calculus. Mrs. Peterson smiled at Emma. Emma, you have become the teacher, and I have become the student. Mrs. Johnson nodded in agreement. Emma, we all have something to learn from you. Principal Martinez looked at all the women sitting in his office. Emma, we failed you at first, but we are not going to fail you anymore. What do you mean? We are going to make sure you get the education you deserve. We are going to make sure you have teachers who can challenge you and help you grow. Emma felt excited and scared at the same time. What will happen to me? Good things, Principal Martinez said with a smile. Very good things, he looked at his watch. In fact, in 1 hour we are going to meet with Dr. Williams from the district office. She specializes in helping gifted children. Will she believe that I am smart? Emma, Mrs. Peterson said gently. After yesterday, no one will ever doubt how smart you are again. Emma smiled for the first time since entering the office. Maybe finally she had found a place where being smart was not something to hide. Maybe she had found a place where she belonged. 2 weeks later, Emma sat in the back seat of Principal Martinez's car as they drove to the state university. Today was the day of the state mathematics competition. Emma wore her best clothes, a blue dress that Mrs. Johnson, her foster mother, had bought especially for this day. Her hair was neatly braided and she carried a small bag with pencils, erasers, and a calculator. How are you feeling, Emma? Principal Martinez asked as he drove. Nervous, Emma said honestly. That is normal. But remember, you have already proven that you can solve very difficult problems. In the past 2 weeks, Emma's life had changed completely. Dr. Williams from the district office had been amazed by Emma's abilities. She had arranged for Emma to work with Dr. Sarah Chen, a mathematics professor at the state university. Dr. Chen was a kind woman who specialized in working with gifted children. She met with Emma 3 times a week after school. Emma, Dr. Chen had said during their first meeting, I want you to know that you are not alone. There are other children like you who love mathematics and learn very quickly. Dr. Chen had given Emma new books to read and new problems to solve. But these were not old library books with torn covers. These were brand new textbooks from the university bookstore. Emma had also started attending a special class for gifted students from several schools in the district. In this class, Emma met other children who were advanced in different subjects. There was Marcus, who was 11 years old and could write computer programs. There was Sarah, who was 10 and could speak 4 languages fluently. There was David, who was 13 and knew more about science than most high school students. For the first time in her life, Emma did not feel strange or different. She felt like she belonged. The other students in her regular classes had also changed how they treated Emma. Instead of whispering about her being a cheater, they now asked her for help with their math homework. Emma, a boy named Tyler had said just yesterday, "Can you help me understand fractions? You explain things better than the teacher does." Emma had been happy to help. She discovered that she enjoyed teaching other students almost as much as she enjoyed learning new things herself. Mrs. Peterson had also made changes in her classroom. She now gave Emma special advanced problems to work on when she finished her regular assignments quickly. Emma, Mrs. Peterson had said, I am learning new mathematics so that I can keep up with you. Mrs. Peterson was taking a night class at the community college to learn calculus. She wanted to be able to understand the work that Emma was doing. Even Emma's foster parents, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, had learned more about Emma's gifts. We always knew Emma was special, Mrs. Johnson had told Principal Martinez, but we did not know how to help her. Now we understand that Emma needs our support in a different way. The Johnsons had cleared out a corner of their living room to make a study space for Emma. They bought her a desk and a good lamp. They made sure she had quiet time to work on her mathematics. Emma, Mr. Johnson had said, we are proud of you. Not just because you are smart, but because you work so hard and you are so kind to other people. Now, as they drove to the university, Emma thought about how much her life had changed. Principal Martinez, she said, can I ask you something? Of course. Why did my life change so much? I am the same person I was 2 weeks ago. Principal Martinez thought carefully about his answer. Emma, you are the same person. But now the adults around you understand who you really are. He looked at Emma in the rearview mirror. Emma, you were always brilliant. You were always special. But we adults were not smart enough to see it at first. They arrived at the university and parked in front of a large building. Emma could see other students and their families walking toward the entrance. Are you ready? Principal Martinez asked. Emma took a deep breath. I think so. They walked into the building together. Inside, there were about 100 students from all over the state. Some looked nervous, like Emma. Others looked confident and excited. A woman with a clipboard checked Emma's name off a list. Emma Chen from Lincoln Elementary. Welcome. She handed Emma a name tag and a packet of papers. The competition will begin in 30 minutes. Good luck. Emma found a seat in the large auditorium. Principal Martinez sat with the other parents and teachers in the back of the room. Emma looked around at the other students. Some were much older than her. Some looked like they came from wealthy families with expensive clothes and fancy calculators. Emma began to feel intimidated. Maybe she did not belong here after all. Then she remembered something Dr. Chen had told her. Emma, mathematics is not about how you look or where you come from. Mathematics is about how well you can think and solve problems. And you are one of the best problem solvers I have ever met. A man walked to the front of the room. Good morning, students. Welcome to the state mathematics competition. He explained the rules. There would be 2 parts to the competition. First, students would solve 20 multiple-choice problems. Then they would solve 10 harder problems that required written explanations. You have 3 hours to complete both parts, the man said. You may begin now. Emma opened her test booklet and read the first problem. It was about calculating the area of an irregular shape. Emma smiled. This was easier than the problems Dr. Chen had been giving her. She worked steadily through the multiple-choice section. Most of the problems were similar to ones she had solved before in her library books. When she finished the multiple-choice section, Emma had used only 45 minutes. She looked around and saw that other students were still working on the first part. Emma moved on to the written problems. These were harder and more interesting. 1. Problem asked students to find a pattern in a sequence of numbers and explain how the pattern worked. Another problem was about probability, calculating the chances that certain events would happen. Emma's favorite problem was about optimization. It asked students to find the best solution to a complex situation with many variables. Emma worked carefully on each problem. She showed all her steps and explained her reasoning clearly. Dr. Chen had taught her that good mathematics was not just about getting the right answer, but about explaining how you got there. When Emma finished all the problems, she looked at the clock. She had used 2 hours and 15 minutes. She still had 45 minutes left. Emma checked her work carefully. She found one small mistake in her calculations and corrected it. Then she did something that surprised her. At the end of the test booklet, there was a bonus problem. It was labeled optional, for advanced students only. Emma read the bonus problem. It was about calculus, specifically about finding the maximum value of a complex function. Emma smiled. This was exactly the kind of problem she loved. She spent the remaining time working on the bonus problem. It was challenging but not too difficult for someone who had been reading calculus textbooks for 3 years. When time was up, Emma put down her pencil and handed in her test. How did it go? Principal Martinez asked as they walked out of the building. It was fun, Emma said. The problems were interesting. Were they hard? Some of them were, but most of them were like problems I have solved before. Principal Martinez smiled. He had a feeling that Emma had done very well. 3 days later, Principal Martinez got a phone call at his office. Principal Martinez? This is Dr. Thompson from the state mathematics competition. Hello, Dr. Thompson. Do you have the results? I do. And I need to ask you about one of your students. Principal Martinez felt nervous. What about? Emma Chen. She got a perfect score on the entire competition. Principal Martinez sat down heavily in his chair. A perfect score? A perfect score. She answered every question correctly, including the optional bonus problem that most high school students cannot solve. Dr. Thompson continued. Principal Martinez, in the 40-year history of this competition, only 3 students have ever gotten perfect scores. Emma is the youngest by 5 years. Principal Martinez felt tears in his eyes. What does this mean? It means that Emma Chen is one of the most mathematically gifted students we have ever seen. She will receive a full scholarship to any state university when she is ready for college. After he hung up the phone, Principal Martinez called Emma's foster parents. Mrs. Johnson, I have wonderful news about Emma. That afternoon, Emma walked into Principal Martinez's office to hear the results. Mrs. Peterson, Mrs. Johnson, Dr. Williams, and Dr. Chen were all there waiting for her. Emma, Principal Martinez said with a huge smile, you won. I won. You got every single question right. You got a perfect score. Emma could not believe it. Really? Really? Emma, you are the state mathematics champion. Everyone in the room started clapping and cheering. Emma felt overwhelmed with happiness. Dr. Chen came over and hugged Emma. Emma, I am so proud of you. But I am not surprised. I knew you could do it. Mrs. Peterson had tears in her eyes. Emma, do you remember when I thought you were not smart enough for regular math class? Emma nodded. I was so wrong. You are not just smart enough for regular math class. You are smart enough for any math class in the world. That evening, Emma sat in her room looking at her championship certificate. Next to it on her desk was the first calculus book she had ever checked out from the library. She thought about how different her life was now compared to just 1 month ago. A month ago, she was being accused of cheating and moved to special education. Today, she was the state mathematics champion with a full scholarship to college. Emma smiled as she opened a new mathematics book that Dr. Chen had given her. It was about advanced calculus and differential equations. She had come a long way from hiding her gifts to celebrating them. And this was just the beginning. 6 months had passed since Emma won the state mathematics competition. It was now spring, and Lincoln Elementary looked different to Emma as she walked through the hallways. The school newspaper had written an article about Emma's victory. Her photo hung in the main hallway next to other student achievements. But more importantly, Emma felt different about herself. She no longer walked with her head down. She no longer tried to hide how smart she was. She had learned that being gifted was something to be proud of, not something to be ashamed of. Emma was on her way to Principal Martinez's office, but not because she was in trouble. Today she had a very special job to do. Good morning, Emma, Principal Martinez said as she knocked on his door. Good morning, Principal Martinez. He smiled at her. Their relationship had changed completely since that difficult day 6 months ago. Now Principal Martinez considered Emma to be one of his most important students. Are you ready for your presentation today? He asked. I think so. I am a little nervous. Today, Emma was going to speak to a group of third-grade students who had been identified as possibly gifted in mathematics. Her job was to help them understand that being smart was wonderful, not scary. Emma, you are going to do great, Principal Martinez said. These younger students need to hear from someone like you. Emma had been working as a student mentor for several months now. She helped younger students who were struggling with math, and she also helped students who were advanced but afraid to show it. Dr. Chen had explained to Emma that many gifted children hide their abilities because they want to fit in with other kids. You can help them. Emma, Dr. Chen had said, you can show them that it is possible to be both gifted and happy. Emma walked to the classroom where the third-grade students were waiting. There were 8 children sitting at desks arranged in a circle. Mrs. Rodriguez, their teacher, introduced Emma. Students, this is Emma Chen. She is in 6th grade and she is going to talk to you about mathematics. Emma looked at the young faces staring at her. Some looked excited. Others looked worried. Hi everyone, Emma said. How many of you like math? A few hands went up slowly. How many of you think math is hard? More hands went up, Emma smiled. I want to tell you a story about a girl who loved math, but was afraid to show it. She sat down in a chair so she would be at the same level. As the younger students, this girl loved numbers and patterns and solving problems, but she thought that other kids would think she was weird if they knew how much she loved math. A small boy named Kevin raised his hand. What happened to her? She spent years pretending that math was hard for her, even though it was actually easy. A girl named Maria asked, why did she pretend? Emma thought carefully about her answer. Because she was afraid that if people knew she was different, they would not like her. The students nodded. They understood this feeling. But you know what happened, Emma continued. Pretending made her very sad. She could not be herself. What changed? Asked another student. She finally met adults who helped her understand that being good at math was a gift, not a problem. Emma stood up and walked to the whiteboard. Can I show you something cool about math? The students nodded eagerly. Emma wrote a simple pattern on the board. 2, 4, 6, 8. What comes next? She asked. 10. Several students called out. Right. Now let me show you a different kind of pattern. Emma wrote 1, 4, 9, 16. The students looked confused. This pattern is about square numbers, Emma explained. 1 times 1 equals 1. 2 times 2 equals 4. 3 times 3 equals 9. She could see understanding dawn on some faces. 4 times 4 equals 16. So what comes next? 25. Kevin shouted. Excellent, Emma said. You just learned about square numbers. She turned back to the students. Math is full of beautiful patterns like this. When you understand the patterns, math becomes like solving puzzles. Maria raised her hand. Emma, are you really good at math? Emma nodded. Yes, I am. And for a long time I was embarrassed about it. Why? Because I thought it made me different from other kids. A quiet boy in the back raised his hand. Do other kids make fun of you for being smart? Emma was honest. Sometimes. But you know what I learned? The students waited. The kids who make fun of you for being smart are usually kids who feel bad about themselves. Happy kids do not make fun of other people. Emma sat back down. I also learned that there are other kids who are smart too. When I found them, I made really good friends. She told the students about Marcus, who was good at computers, and Sarah, who spoke many languages. Now I have friends who understand me. We help each other learn new things. Mrs. Rodriguez had been listening quietly. Emma, can you tell the students about the competition you won? Emma felt proud as she told the students about the state mathematics championship. You won first place in the whole state? Maria asked, amazed. Yes, but the most important thing was not winning. The most important thing was learning that I did not have to hide who I really was. Kevin raised his hand again. Emma, what if we are not as smart as you? Emma smiled gently. Kevin, everyone is smart in different ways. Some people are smart at math. Some people are smart at art or music or sports. She looked around the room. The important thing is to find what you are good at and not be afraid to show it. A girl named Lisa spoke up quietly. I think I might be good at math, but I do not want other kids to think I am showing off. Emma's heart went out to Lisa. She remembered feeling exactly the same way. Lisa, can I tell you something? Lisa nodded. When you hide your gifts, you are not helping anyone. Not yourself and not other people either. Emma knelt down next to Lisa's desk. When I started helping other students with math, I discovered something wonderful. Helping others made me feel happy, and it made them feel happy too. She stood back up and addressed all the students. Being good at something gives you the power to help other people. That is not showing off. That is being kind. Mrs. Rodriguez smiled. Emma, would you be willing to visit our class once a week to help students with advanced math problems? I would love to, Emma said. After the presentation, Emma walked back toward Principal Martinez's office. On the way, she passed her old 6th grade classroom. Mrs. Peterson waved at her through the window. Emma waved back. Mrs. Peterson had kept her promise to learn more mathematics. She had completed her calculus course at the community college and was now taking advanced mathematics classes online. I want to be able to help the next Emma who comes through my classroom, Mrs. Peterson had told her. Emma continued walking and stopped at the bulletin board in the main hallway. Her championship certificate was displayed there, along with a photo of her receiving the award. But Emma's favorite item on the bulletin board was a letter that had been sent to the school by the state university. The letter announced that Emma had been accepted into a special program for exceptionally gifted students. Starting in the fall, Emma would take college mathematics classes while still attending regular classes at Lincoln Elementary. She will be the youngest student ever accepted into this program, the letter said. Emma smiled as she read the letter for the 100th time. A year ago, she could never have imagined such opportunities were possible. She knocked on Principal Martinez's office door. Come in, Emma. Emma entered and was surprised to see several people waiting for her. Dr. Chen was there, along with Mrs. Peterson, Dr. Williams, and Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. What is everyone doing here? Emma asked. Principal Martinez smiled. Emma, we wanted to surprise you with some news. Emma felt excited and nervous. The district has decided to create a new program for gifted students, and they want to base it here at Lincoln Elementary. Emma's eyes grew wide. Dr. Williams stepped forward. Emma, your story has inspired the whole district. We realize that there are probably other students like you who need special support. The new program will help identify gifted students earlier, Mrs. Peterson added, and it will make sure they get the right kind of education from the beginning. Dr. Chen had more news. Emma, the state university wants you to help design the program. They want your input on what kinds of support gifted children need. Emma could hardly believe what she was hearing. You want me to help design a program for other kids? Yes, Principal Martinez said. Emma, you understand better than anyone what it feels like to be a gifted child in the regular school system. Mr. Johnson spoke up. Emma, we are so proud of you. Not just for your achievements, but for the person you have become. Mrs. Johnson nodded. Emma, you have taught us so much about not judging people by their circumstances. Emma felt tears in her eyes, but they were happy tears. There is one more surprise, Principal Martinez said. He handed Emma an envelope. This came for you today. Emma opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a letter from the mayor of their city. The letter said, Dear Emma, your story has inspired our entire community. You have shown us that every child has potential, and that it is our job as adults to recognize and nurture that potential. The letter continued, I would like to invite you to speak at our annual Education Excellence Awards ceremony. Your message about the importance of believing in every child needs to be heard by educators throughout our region. Emma looked up from the letter. The mayor wants me to give a speech? A very important speech, Dr. Chen said. Emma, you have the power to change how people think about gifted children and foster children. What would I say? Principal Martinez sat down next to Emma. You would tell your story. You would help other adults understand how important it is to look for the potential in every child. Emma thought about all the children, like her, who might be hiding their gifts because they were afraid or because no one had noticed them yet. I think I would like to do that, she said quietly. Mrs. Peterson clapped her hands together. Emma, do you remember the first day you came to my classroom? Emma nodded. I thought you were just another quiet foster child who would probably move to a different school soon. Mrs. Peterson's voice became emotional. I almost missed seeing one of the most brilliant students I will ever teach. She looked directly at Emma. Emma, you have taught me to look more carefully at every student. You have made me a better teacher. Dr. Williams added, Emma, your story is already helping other children. Since word got out about your achievements, 3 other students in our district have been identified as gifted. Really? Really? Their teachers said that hearing about you made them pay more attention to students who might be hiding their abilities. Emma felt overwhelmed by all the attention, but also deeply happy. 6 months ago, she had been sitting in the same office, accused of cheating and facing placement in a remedial program. Today, she was being asked to help design programs for other gifted children and to speak to community leaders about education. But the biggest change was not in her circumstances. The biggest change was in how she felt about herself. Emma no longer felt like she had to hide who she was. She no longer felt ashamed of being different. She had learned that her gifts were not something to apologize for, but something to celebrate and share. Thank you, Emma said to everyone in the room. Thank you for believing in me when I could not believe in myself. Principal Martinez stood up and walked over to his desk. He picked up a small framed photo and handed it to Emma. The photo showed Emma at the state mathematics competition, holding her championship trophy. But Emma's favorite part of the photo was her smile. It was the smile of a child who was finally free to be herself. Emma, Principal Martinez said, I want you to remember something important. Emma looked at him. You were always brilliant. You were always special. You were always worthy of great things. He paused. The only thing that changed was that we adults finally learned to see what was already there. Emma hugged the photo to her chest. Principal Martinez, can I ask you something? Of course. What would have happened to me if you had not given me that second chance? If you had just moved me to the special education program? Principal Martinez felt sad thinking about it. Emma, I do not know, but I am grateful every day that we discovered the truth before it was too late. He looked at all the adults in the room. Emma, you have taught all of us an important lesson about not making assumptions about children. Emma smiled. I hope other kids will not have to wait as long as I did to be believed in. Dr. Chen spoke up. Emma, that is exactly why your voice is so important. You can help make sure other children get the support they need sooner. As the meeting ended and everyone prepared to leave, Emma thought about her future. She would continue taking advanced mathematics classes at the university. She would keep helping younger students discover their own gifts, and she would use her voice to advocate for other children who might be overlooked or misunderstood. Emma walked out of Principal Martinez's office with her head held high. In her hands, she carried the photo from the math competition and the letter from the mayor. But in her heart, she carried something even more valuable: the knowledge that she was exactly who she was meant to be. As she walked down the hallway of Lincoln Elementary, Emma passed the classroom where she was now helping third-grade students learn to love mathematics. Through the window, she could see Lisa working on an advanced problem, no longer afraid to show how smart she was. Emma smiled. The cycle was beginning again. Another child was learning that being gifted was not something to hide, but something to celebrate, and Emma knew that her story was just the beginning. There were many more children out there waiting to be discovered, waiting to be believed in, waiting for their chance to shine. Emma Chen, the quiet foster child who had once hidden her brilliance, was now helping to make sure that no child would have to hide their gifts ever again. The girl who had been doubted had become the woman who would help others believe in themselves. And that, Emma thought as she walked toward her next class, was the most beautiful equation of all.